Bjergsen is finally moving away from TSM and now he's joining Team Liquid. Now, I don't think it's of anyone's surprise that he is coming out of retirement, I guess, or moving on from coaching right back to a player, because I think all of us knew that he was never truly done. he seems to just have that competitive spirit, and at least as far as I knew, I didn't think that he was going to necessarily retire from being a pro player, which is, I think, often why I had said I had never done what I was going to do if this extended an entire year. Part of my series, The Tragic Story of, because he would certainly require one, because he just never really made it as far as he should given his stature within the NALCS. But anyways, so to break down, I guess, kind of the chronology of what actually happened was, TSM was not very successful last year, obviously. They didn't go to Worlds. And then TSM ended up giving him, a competitive offer because now he was a free agent. So they gave him an offer saying, hey, if you do want to become a pro player, then, here's what we will offer you, etc. And it seems like he just got a better offer from Team Liquid. Now, I'm not saying better in the sense that maybe they offered him more money or whatnot. Maybe that's not the case. But you also have to consider that the move itself of TSM offering, to Bjergsen, he already had equity within TSM, so maybe they could use that as leverage. I certainly know I would if I was Reginald. I would say, hey, you already have equity in here. Here's what I'm going to give you. I know this is lower than the salary that you would get, within maybe an organization like Team Liquid or Cloud9, for instance, they would offer you, but you already have equity. Maybe we'll offer you a little bit more equity, and then he could save from the initial, call it sticker price of the car of that is Bjergsen, right? So I think it truly just shows, just from the counter, I guess, offer, is that it truly shows how much Team Liquid is willing to spend on such a big, large move, and it's only to their benefit, right? And by the way, if anyone deserves the bag, it's got to be Bjergsen, right? I think we can all agree that Bjergsen is one of the few players that actually deserves to be paid a ridiculous amount of money. Just because of his branding, how long he's been in North America, how he's committed to North America, etc., right? So, it's like him and fucking Faker, right, that deserve a big bag of money. So I don't blame Team Liquid if they had to offer him a lot of money. And I think also, too, this is just brilliant from Steve, just to go on that tangent of this is perfect timing from him, because now North America is hosting Worlds, right? We're going to have a thing in New York. We're going to have a thing in San Francisco. Then, of course, Toronto. So it's this is the perfect timing for, and then Mexico City, right? So this is the perfect timing for Team Liquid to just go all out with their budget. And, we thought they went all out last year. It's no, they're they're paying a lot of money this year as well, too. But I think it's more warranted now, because now you could say to your sponsors, hey, we're most likely going to go to Worlds. This is a North American Worlds. And then you could renegotiate your sponsorship deals for this year. You can also try and bring in some new sponsors, because it's pretty much fucking guaranteed that you're going to go to Worlds, which is big for sponsors, right? If you can guarantee them basically a Worlds spot, then, you can have a little bit more leverage in terms of just, what you're going to deal out as sponsorship packages. So I think realistically, though, too, when you think about the moves that Bjergsen could have made during this offseason, I think they were very limited because, first of all, it requires a large sack of money. But second of all, it requires star players around him, because it's very obvious, as you've heard throughout the years, that Bjergsen demands excellence from his teammates and therefore requires the backing of his organization to construct a roster that he feels comfortable with. It's very obvious that he has a lot of say in the the roster lineups that has happened in TSM. So it's a no-brainer that he would have some say in the roster moves that happen with Team Liquid. And this isn't anything out of the blue from, star players within North America or even Europe, in the fact that, in fact, all around the world, that star players do have a certain amount of say of, how the roster is constructed, what they're going to be kind of looking at before they sign, because you kind of owe them that as, a team owner, to say that we will build around you. These are the pieces that we're thinking of, and here are the pieces that we already have locked. So that's probably why I think that he moved from TSM, was he was guaranteed more like tenured and veteran and just really good high caliber players. Obviously Core JJ was a big part of them, right? You could even see that in what he said in Travis's interview. Go watch that about, that 30-minute interview that he had, to where he said, like, yeah, that was actually the player that I was talking about that I really wanted to work with. And then you figure it's no coincidence that you have Whippo in the top lane that, solidifies the top side, and then Santorin that is obviously going to be on the team too. So that's a pretty good lock in and of itself. And then, of course, Hansama being one of the other packages that comes in too. So it's just all around makes a lot of sense of why he would join Team Liquid. Now, the big question is he out of form? I would have to say that he has to be out of form somewhat. I don't think that solo queue is necessarily a replacement for just being in scrims and playing as a player in scrims, right? It was said that he was playing just as much solo queue as pro players, if not more than most pro players, when he was coaching. So, but that was him playing in other different roles to learn other styles and just how to think about the game from, the players that he's coaching and their perspectives. But now he has to focus, of course, on mid lane. So he's going to have to brush up his solo queue mechanics, let's say, in mid lane, but also he's going to have to brush up on his scrim, skills and skill sets, which are largely different from what you do in solo queue. Just it's a no-brainer that the game is very different in a professional setting like that. So I think he probably is out of form. How much out of form? It's probably safe to say that he's not like drastically out of form, because he was playing a lot of solo queue. He still kept his hands on the game itself. He's been at, as a coach too, and it hasn't been that long since he's last played professionally. So this is probably the best circumstance in which he could come back in. So I don't think it's going to be that crazy for him to get back into form. It might just take the lock-in tournament for him to actually get back up to gear. And as we all know, the lock-in tournament really doesn't matter. So this is going to be a perfect opportunity for him to kind of get his feet wet back into the game. So this is absolutely perfect. I don't think anyone needs to worry about that as far as if you're a Team Liquid fan or if you're a Bjergsen fan. Now, I think one big advantage that he's going to give to Team Liquid is the fact that he can improve everyone's team work ethic, right? Because we have all heard the stories of Bjergsen's work ethic, that he's a workhorse, that, he puts in the hours, he does, VOD reviews, he'll do solo queue, he's just all about the game, and he's very focused about the game. There was actually, there was a video back in the day, see if you guys can find it, and it was a interview that Riot did to where he went back home and he was talking about, in one part of it, how he would actually value solo queue more than time with his friends or, just personal time outside of the game, because he thought if he could squeeze in, 2 extra games, then that would make him way better. And then he slowly started to realize that actually had negative repercussions. And so he kind of took a weird hands-off approach, or not a weird hands-off, but he just took the sensible hands-off approach to, he could round himself out as a person. And so that therefore helped him out within the game. And that just shows his mindset, at least, of the drive that he has, the work ethic that he has. Although it was, the wrong mindset, you could still see that he has this crazy work ethic. He just had the wrong solution at the time. And then, of course, his playstyle is also pretty adaptive, I think. He's able to be selfless a lot, and he's able to play aggressive, kind of when he needs to play aggressive, I would say, for the most part. So I think his play style is really well suited to shift into any team. So I think, him joining Team Liquid, or him joining any team rather, is going to be a very seamless move for any organization. So I think this is an obvious pickup for Team Liquid. And this is actually the first time, and this is like the biggest thing for me, is that this is going to be the first time that he has a real coach. You could think all throughout his entire history as a player that he's never had a real coach besides, I'm going to throw out the controversial opinion, which it's fucking weird that it is, but Loco Doco. People just seem to fucking retcon that Loco Doco was somehow a bad coach or whatever. But that was only fucking 2-time winning LCS coach, but okay. So at least for TSM. So now they're going to have Gyoro and Cold as their, main coaching staff. And I think this is going to give an opportunity for Bjergsen to really take his mind off of all of the other elements of his teammates or how to help his teammates, etc. And maybe this is going to finally help him actually just focus on his own game, because we know that he is a very skilled player just by himself, but it seems like he is highly distracted in helping other players on his team, like every single lineup almost constantly. So I think this is going to give a real chance for him to just take his mind off of all that and focus on himself. And what I want to see from Bjergsen is going to be this aggressiveness. I want him to take control of games. I want him to be this out for blood Bjergsen. I want him to come back with a fucking vengeance into the league, because we haven't seen this ultra aggressive Bjergsen in a really fucking long time. I mean, this goes back into season 3, season 4, Bjergsen, right? That was the time when he was a cold-blooded fucking killer, even a little bit into season 5. So, yeah, this is what I want to see from him. I want to see him to be a little bit more selfish in his play style. And I want to actually see him turn on the fucking killer instinct that I think that he's been suppressing this entire time, because he hasn't had the ability to do so, because he's just been so concerned with his teammates and therefore helping out his team or making his team look good. So I'm actually very excited to see Bjergsen, don another jersey. Although it seems a little bit weird, I think this is going to be for the betterment of his career. And I'm just really excited to see Bjergsen back in the LCS, because I do actually consider him a very good player.